Hi everyone, it's Heidi from Flutter by Heidi, and I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm going to be using some of our lovely winter themed products from the autumn and winter catalogue to create a card which I hope you're going to like, which is this one here. So this is a double pop out, some people call it a W card. I suppose if you look at it upside down, it's a bit like a W, but I just thought it was a lovely way to create a special card for perhaps family members some special family members that you might have. And I've used that lovely Stampin' Blends to colour this and a few other products. So what I've done, the paper I've used is this Snowflake Splendor paper, which comes in 12 by 12 sheets, all double-sided, so you get two of each double-sided sheet. And so I'm going to use some of those papers again for this. That's the last one. You see beautiful papers, lots of lovely snowflakes, as well as some more muted kind of patterns as well. I'm also going to be using this lovely Coming Home stamp set, which is where all the houses and all the images come from. I've done quite a bit of the colouring and stamping to start off with, just to kind of I can focus on just showing you a sample of how I do my colouring, rather than you having to sit there and watch me colour all of the different things. So that's the card. I've used some layering dies you can see on the front here, which are our standard layering circles. Mine's the old style packaging and the old numbering. And I've just used kind of the two larger ones to go on the front there, just to give a narrow border, and just choose whatever you happen to have. But that just gives a really pretty narrow border on those. What else have I used? I've also used Perfectly Plaid for the sentiment. So on the inside here, we've got this lovely sentiment, hoping your busy year comes together in Christmas cheer. So when it stands up, you've got both the stuff, the houses and the sentiment to see. And I would obviously, you can write on the reverse of the card if you wanted to as well. And then finally, which you possibly can't see as well, I've used our lovely winter snow embossing folder on there. And if I show you on my Lumiere that I made in a project recently, that gives you an idea of the level of detail. They are really pretty detailed snowflakes. And I've used those just on a piece of DSP to give some extra texture on the front and some extra interest. The colours I've used are sort of balmy blue, a bit of Pool Party, some Just Jade, and then the Misty Moonlight blends. So the light and dark in each of those, they come in a pair. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to need obviously a card base, and because of the depth of the card, I'm actually putting an extra score line in. So what you've got is a piece of cardstock that is 10.5 by 28.5 centimetres, and I'm going to score that at 14. Well, I will with my scoring blades in, and 14.5. So quite simple scoring there, just to create that extra bit of depth for our card. Okay, you're then going to take a piece for the inner pop out, and this is again going to be 28.5 centimetres, which I have trimmed it to, and again same scoring at 14 and 14.5. And then the final piece that I've got is just 13.5 by 10. No, it isn't 13.5 by 10 at all. It's 14.5 by 7 centimetres. So I'm going to score at 7. 7.5. And I forgot to give you the extra score lines, which are at 3.5. And I haven't done it on the other one either. And at 11 centimetres. So you actually need an extra score line on this one as well. So this is at 7 centimetres. And the other score line is at 21.5 centimetres. So I will jot all those down on my blog as well for you. Just put forgot those for a moment. Other things you will need some designer series paper to go onto the front of your card. So that's a piece that I've already cut here, and I've put it through the embossing folder as well. So and you'll need a piece of Misty Moonlight. So the Misty Moonlight I've cut to 13.8 by 10.3, and then I've cut the designer series paper to 13.5 by 10 centimetres to give a really nice narrow border. And you can see that I've cut my die cut shape out of that back layer, so those will just layer on together. Then you need 2 pieces of DSP for the inside, and I've gone for this slightly more dominant snowflake effect, and these 2 pieces are 14 by 10.5, so no border on those at all. So let's make a start on some of our construction before we do some of our die cutting. So first things first, let's pop our Misty Moonlight onto our cardstock. So as you can see, I've got a nice nice fingerprint on the middle there, so we're going to use that and cover that up, PDQ. So this layer is just going to fit with a tiny little border onto the front of our card. Then I'm going to add that lovely embossed layer, like so. Now, often when I'm adding, particularly when it's a really textured one, I use a wet glue rather than a tape runner. In fact, I don't know why I'm not doing that. The reason for that is because obviously it gets into the kind of embossed bits, so it helps it stay much more easily, and you're not pressing on it, even though you don't need any pressure on our tape rollers anyway, but it just helps to just not add any pressure onto that if you can avoid it. So there's our lovely layer going onto the front there. While we've got our glue out, I'm going to add my add some Tombow to the back of a die cut circle of Whisper White, and just add that onto the front there. And that's where Tombow is really useful, because it's very forgiving and you just give you a few bits of wiggle room to add that on. So that's going to be the front of our card. So we want to add our pieces to the inside of our card as well. So again, I'm just going to use my Tombow just to kind of go over here. You can see, just pop that in there. And do the same again. The great thing with this paper is it's obviously not sort of directional either, so you haven't got to worry about getting it to the right way up. And just pop that second piece in, and we're just popping that either side of that little margin that we've created, like so. So I'll pop that to one side, and let's get on with the next pieces. So with the pieces that we've actually already die cut scored, the next thing we want to do is actually do some die cutting. So for this I'm using the Trimming the Town dies, which I didn't mention, which obviously coordinate with this, and they include these fabulous 2 dies here. So these 2, what I'm actually going to do is for the inner one, I'm just going to pop that across. Now you can see here what you want is your trees, ideally either side of those score lines. So I'm going to pop it right up near the top, pop a bit of washi tape on, and I'm going to put my washi tape just at the top there, so when I take it off it's not going to damage my bottom part. And then for my other die, again I'm just going to come in, put it right at the top, like so. Run those through, and then once we've done those, on the longer one, I put it through once, then I go through a second time for the other half. So this one here, just going to move that and add that across the edge here. Well, my first one is now ready to go. And it doesn't matter that these don't join up, because you can soon just trim that with your scissors. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just come in here and continue that curve to there and to there. And this one, we go, just pop that to one side. And then while it's still flat, I'm just going to come in and very quickly, oh, onto my dark one, I'm using my Just Jade just to add a bit of shading onto those. So by adding my dark first, I can then just come on with the lighter colour. Now if you wanted, you could obviously leave those uncoloured if you like the stuff simple white trees, the sort of snow effect. I just fancied a little bit of extra colour in with those. Okay, so next thing for us to do is to pop those to the side, and I'm going to show you how I do the houses. So what I do is when I'm die cutting, I make sure that I die cut lots of blanks and then I stamp them afterwards. I find I get a much better result by doing that, and I create myself a little template. So it's using the Stamparatus, I just die cut an aperture. I can then pop my die cut shape into the aperture, ink up my house straight down, and there we've got a perfectly stamped house. Works really well, particularly for these fiddly little images where sometimes the dies can jump around. So again, I've just created my aperture, die cut lots of blank shapes, and then I can just come in and that lifts up, and there's your perfect little tree. I struggle with some of the others to get them to line up otherwise, and this is the way I found most effective for me to get lovely die cut images every time. And it just seems to really speed the process up as well, because I can sit and die cut without worrying about lining up. Lots of occasions, no problem, and then I can just stamp in bulk as well. So when I've done that, what I've actually done here is I've used a range of colours. So I've used our light and dark balmy blue for the houses. So I tend to go in when I'm doing a lot. I tend to sort of circle. I put my sort of dark bits in first. And then I can come in and just blend over that with my light balmy blue. Usually if I'm getting sort of, I get best results by doing my light, then my dark, then go back over with my light again. But for speed, you know, so on Christmas cards, you know, it depends how long you want to take over them. I mean, you know, if you've got plenty of time, take as long as you like over the colour to get a really nice blend. You can always come back in afterwards and add a little bit more colour as well. If you want to even some colours out, just nice circular motions, and you'll find those will blend really, really well. Then for the roof, I've used our Misty Moonlight. So I've just come in with, again, with, in this instance, my light. I'm going to do some dark at the top there. Just kind of adding, not doing a solid colour, just of adding a little bit of shading, as you would get on a house, you know. I just rather like the kind of, well, you'll have seen from a couple of other cards I've done using this. I like this combination of sort of blues, kind of wintry sort of feel to it. But obviously, you know, you could use whatever colours you happen to have. And I certainly find that, you know, this is a good way to just sort of get a bit of depth of colour in there. And then if you've got any little white bits, you can just come in at the last minute with, you know, with a dip of colour. And then the house again, the doors. So by sticking to kind of a single palette, you can get quite a bit of shading using our blends anyway. And certainly for the windows, I find the easiest way to get those is to come in with my, adding some kind of shading first. And I'm being quite, you know, quite rough and ready really with these. But it just come in. And there we go. Obviously you can then use the bullet end if you want to add a bit more detail. But there's our house. So let's have a look at our finishing off with this creation. So what you want to do is the two in the middle, you want to kind of mountain fold, and then the two on the outside you want to valley. So you're going to create this kind of shape, and the same on the back piece. And if your trees haven't quite lined up, you might want to trim a tree out of the way. But you're going to end up with two pieces like this. And what I recommend is that you add your glue to the back one first. And I tend to come in, Tombo's had it, there we go. So add it to these outer two panels only, and then line that up on the centre, like so. Then just repeat that with the front panels, and then I go in and add my houses once my panels are in place. It makes it a little bit more fiddly to add them, but it does mean that you kind of get a better layering. And then if you want to, that's stuck a bit fast, might have done, you can always move that up slightly. There we go. And these line up with the ends of the card. So, and you see that by just changing that, I've just lifted my trees up a little bit to a better effect. And then you can go in and add, so I'm going to keep my house for the front, but add a house in here. Okay. And again, play around with whatever you fancy. Oh, I should have stamped my sentiment. That would have been a good idea, wouldn't it? Luckily, that's fairly flat. So I am just going to use my sentiment and just add that in there. Oh, there go the knees. Okay. So what I've done is I've got a house that I can pop over on this side. I might change it around a little. Okay. And you can just add a small amount of glue just to the bottom edges of these to make sure that you don't come up too far. And I'm just going to use some of that there.